The very foundation of our existence relies upon respect. Respect for all that matters, respect for reality, respect for truth, respect for the law. All that matters requires respect, because respect is the basic form of our, really just our ability to understand that truth is important. I think it can be that simple. The most common problem in America is the fact that there is no respect. People don't care about what is true. They just don't care. They want what they want, and it's all that they want, and they don't want anything else. So we need to readjust that. We need to identify what is important, and we need to accept the limits and the boundaries that are important, or we won't survive, because reality is based upon respect, and respect gives us the life we live. If you fail to respect each other, you end up in war. If you fail to respect yourself, you end up in depression or crime. You have to have respect. So, the worst case of disrespect among a vast quantity, particularly among the university graduates, is the idea that evolution actually exists. It does not. Although they are, in fact, trying to create evolution for you. And evolution is, by their terms, the acceptance that chaos built your life. Chaos is, of course, the destruction of everything complex. That is what chaos is. That's its definition by terms. But the destruction of everything complex to its most simple form. So what they are really trying to do is make you not think, and make you so simple that you believe anything that you are told. And the greatest example of that is potentially evolution. It's certainly the idea that fusion of any kind exists, as in they can create a nuclear fire and then just expect it to extinguish itself, but that's a different topic. Evolution assumes that life built itself from chaos. But let's just discard chaos and ask, how does life build itself? Really, how does life build itself? And I say, wow, some chemicals of some sort or other all found themselves in the same little mud hole, or they say that it started in the ocean, but of course if you have life in the ocean, then it must be from a rock, because anything that can be dissolved into a liquid will be dispersed so quickly that it can't possibly form a life. That's just the facts. Put a drop of anything, put a drop of dye in a glass of water and see how fast it dissipates. So either life is such a concentrated element that it can be alive in an instant, or it is so diluted in an ocean of water that it can't possibly be alive, because it's not concentrated to the point where life could identify itself. In other words, there must be boundaries and limits, or life doesn't exist. So how do you create a boundary as a life form? Well, we have skin. See our skin? And skin is, of course, the boundary of our own body. It doesn't actually contain you, it just protects you. Our bodies are contained by the bone structure, which is stiff enough and structural enough that it can be consistent to its form. And what matters in that is that muscles can then be attached to that structure, and the attachment gives the muscles their ability to act and react and make you move. Of course, that is irrelevant unless the bones themselves can move. In other words, they have to have joints. Because if they don't have joints, they have to be, literally as flexible as a spring or something, so that the bone can completely deform. And that, of course, causes all kinds of problems with the molecular structure that's trying to, be consistent with where it's at. Organs, for instance, do not accept the idea that it can just be, fluid. They need structure to attach themselves to. And that, of course, is another whole issue with bones. Your heart is attached to your bone structure, as is your liver, your kidneys, and everything else. They say you have a hernia when that structure, that attachment to the structure from anything, fails. So then they open up your body and then they sew it back onto the living structure of your body so that it stays in place. If it doesn't stay in place, it can't function. And if it can't function, you can't live. So there are 10 billion little ifs, ands, and buts about a living human being body and every other body around. It's not a simple thing. Even I think the least genetic instructions that your scientists have declared is that it has 350,000 individual instructions. Yeah, that's part of the DNA sequencing of 4 individual chemicals that are formed into a long string tied together like a ladder. That's their terms. So that they find each other, and each ladder rung connects to an alternate ladder rung to make an actual ladder. So we not only have 4 individual chemicals that have to be pure enough to retain their identity and their shape as a chemical, as the structure that a chemical would become, and it has to join with the appropriate chemicals in the sequence that it creates an instruction for life. And then, of course, all those instructions have to build a body of life. That's how life occurs. You have to build it. It doesn't just poof and magically appear. So how do the chemicals in that strand? And of course, we first begin with the respect that is that string of chemicals. Your body contains, I forget how many, 6.5 billion instructions. So how do you get in 6.5 billion instructions inside a living cell in a way that can be read? And of course, the body coils them up. It's one long string, and the body coils them up. And then it has to read it. It has to read it. We're talking about a dot you can't see. 6.5 billion instructions that build your body of life in a dot you can't see. So, those instructions combine chemicals to create a living substance. And of course, they have to have chemicals to combine. They have to have some sort of tool, some sort of mechanism, some sort of expression that will allow chemicals to be not only found, they have to be brought up to an area where they can be put together. That area has to be contained so that a life can, in fact, begin the orderly process of how it does not put itself together. Because in terms of a human body, the muscle, which muscle comes first and where it is attached is extremely critical, because if a first muscle in your body doesn't form in the correct manner and attach to the correct places, then the rest of your body doesn't work. That muscle forms a particular task, and if it's not there, that task will not be performed. How is that not easy to understand? So every single muscle that occurs from a beginning point to an ending point, and it finds its way there in an intricate maze of muscle. Just take a look at the muscle of a body. Every strand counts, and every strand does something, and every strand is attached to a electrical impulse or a wiring into your brain that allows it to function. Not to mention the sensors, the blood vessels that keep it alive, and all the rest. There's supposedly, I forget how many, I don't remember how many miles of blood vessels you have, but it is a tremendous amount. And then, of course, your body is 98% water. That would be a fairly agreed upon process. So how do you contain the water? Well, the water has to be contained, and then, of course, you have to sweat or you become too hot. So we have a whole body that's regulated for heat throughout. If your feet are extremely cold and your head is extremely hot, you're not going to survive. Your whole body is a unit. It has to be functioning as one process or it doesn't survive. It has to have tools. If you don't have tools to work with, you don't survive. Tools are things like hands and arms and a mouth to feed yourself and a butt to extrude, take away the things you don't need or your body doesn't want. There are enormous amounts of obstacles to building a human body. They are not accidental, and they are not formed by chaos. They are formed by thought. Thought is the only thing that we know of for certain that could identify, create, or build something. As far as, have you tried to build something yourself? It doesn't just fall into place. It doesn't just, happen. If you don't know what you're doing, it will fall apart. There are specific instructions to building a human body, and there are specific instructions to getting anything done in your life. If you do not drive a car correctly in traffic, you're going to die, or be injured, or lose your, the whole thing, or somebody else will, and so on. It's not a small or simple process. Respect demands that you should understand life is not a simple adaptation of, well, I got this, so now I can have that. Or I will go shopping, this didn't work out for me, so I'll just go pick it off the shelf, whatever I want. Well, what you want doesn't exist on the shelf. It is not something you can go shopping for. It is not an adaptation. Because a brain needs to be functioning even to make a choice. And your evolutionary gods at the university say that you had no brain until, very, very late in their whole process. You had to be human, basically, before we got to the brain. Now they got a big, big brain. Yes, indeed they do. They believe chaos, the destruction of everything complex, built themselves. Sure it did. Must have. It took apart their brain and left them with sewage up there. But that is another discussion. So let's return to evolution. What about evolution makes it acceptable? And the answer to that is absolutely nothing. Other than the fact that humanity doesn't want to believe that it is responsible for the choices that it makes. On the other hand, everything you do is a choice, and you are responsible for the choices that you make. People don't want to be responsible, so they look for excuses. Well, evolution is an excuse to believe that the things that are important, the things that require your respect, don't actually have to have your respect. That's what evolution is about. It says, let me do whatever I want to do without any cost to me and without any cost to my future or eternity or anything else. So you want an excuse. The universities gave you an excuse. And, because they're the university, they're God, they know everything, you just accept it as some kind of fact. Which, of course, it is not. It isn't even close to a fact. It has no function and no bearing and no thought and no anything There is no order, no discipline, no balance, no nothing in evolution. It does not exist. The human body, all life, is built from thought. You can't have, even the simplest life form, a DNA structure that says you got to collect 320 different instructions, plus all the chemistry that's involved, plus all the transportation of all those products that have to be made to form any kind of living organism. You have to be able to contain it in a boundary so that it can form itself. You have to get the motion started. You have to pump fluids and all the rest. There is nothing about life that suggests in any form or in any fashion that it is just an accident. It is not an accident. It is a valid, true, real evidence of thought built this. We know of nothing else that could build it. And of course, thought must build the tools and the utilities and the machinery and all the rest, including the taking away the waste to build anything. What do you build without that? You do not. Evolution is an outright lie. It is nothing more and it is nothing less. It is an outright lie. The idea that you can accept anything less than that is just ludicrous. Evolution is an outright lie. And it is taught in schools and so on. And the worst of the worst of the worst that evolution is, every religion has its own right to its own fantasies, but evolution goes a step beyond, because it is a university religion. They use it to say that they can do anything to life and life processes, mutilating it in whatever way they wish, and they don't have to be responsible for anything they do, because evolution will fix it. So they say in a billion years or so. Well, evolution will not fix anything they do. How is that not clear? Evolution has nothing to offer you except a lie. It fully and completely does not exist. There is absolutely nothing about it that is true other than adaptation. Adaptation does not go from species to species to species. That's because there are boundaries set in place so that doesn't happen. That too is evidence of thought. But adaptations within the species boundaries and limits of an individual race or individual distinct living creature is evidence of thought. As is in this world, there are known to be specific instances where if you don't adapt yourself to the environment and the reality of what is and isn't now, then you're going to die. So thought would, in fact, simply create the necessary products and processes that allow you to adapt and to change what must be changed so that you can live within the circumstances you find yourself. That's just thought. It has nothing to do with adaptation to one species to another species to another species. That is absolute stupidity. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Proven again and again and again. But of course your geneticists are trying to mix species together. That's their plan. They want flies and men to be part of each other. They want, snakes and men to be part of it. They want, all of the Greek mythology. Nothing has changed. Greek mythology wanted to put a horse and a man together, or an antelope and a man together, or an ape and a man together. It doesn't make any difference. Their geneticists are trying to combine every living thing into something else. They want to play God, and they want to say, I created that, not God. Well, we have a creator, and while you can't see him physically, because he's more than that, you certainly can see the evidence of his work. Every blade of grass, is a complex structure that builds itself automatically. It takes care of itself. You don't do anything. Every blade of grass, every tree, every living thing was built and placed here in an orderly, balanced, and disciplined state. And of course, whether you think that predator and prey are a valid choice for the world, the reality is that if you don't have balance, that is specifically thought-driven balance in a world that has the ability to produce life so that it does survive. That means that you have to make choices. When you change that, you have to make choices to balance the situation or things get out of hand and all of life is in trouble, such as it is today with overpopulation of humanity. We are literally eating ourselves out of house and home. Literally, we are eating ourselves out of house and home and destroying the planet besides, and we will not survive if we do not control the population rise. That occurred because of medicine got a little better, but mostly it's antibiotics and vaccinations of this kind and that kind that caused our population to rise, along with increases in food production. So we made changes, or the university made changes, or whatever you want to call it. Changes were made by humanity. Excuse me. And the reality of that is we changed the balance of the planet. And so the balance of the planet is no longer functioning for us, and we threaten to destroy our planet and our lives because of it. We made changes. We adapted what we wanted life to be, as in, nobody has to die, or only a few of us has to die, or whatever it is you'd like to call it. We made changes, and those changes caused our planet to have to adjust itself, if you wish. Of course, the planet can't adjust. It is a finite, closed system. And we can't just go off to another planet. So we have to contend with what we have done. And what we have done is made too many humans. And of course, the population increase is 100 million, more or less, per year in humanity over the entire world population. That's 1 billion more every decade. And every one of them wants food, and along with food they need water and everything else that they want. So there's nothing but war ahead, nothing but heartache and hell, unless we really, really, really do change ourselves. There is no option to that. If you don't change yourselves, even though you don't want to, if you don't do what the limits and the boundaries of life on this planet require, you don't survive. And you say, well, I will survive. Let them other ones die. Well, guess what? They say the very same thing about you. What do you suppose that's going to make for a reality? Regardless, let's go back to evolution and just ask you the very, very simple questions. What good is a heart if you don't have blood with it? Just having a heart doesn't do you any good without muscles. Blood is worthless without lungs to oxygenate it. You can't have blood and lungs and what have you without blood vessels. You need kidneys to refine the water that's in your body to take out the impurities and get them removed. Or your skin starts bleeding urine, as bad as that sounds. So you have to have plumbing, and you have to have valves, and of course you have to have a liver, and you have to have a pancreas or you can't dissolve the food that you eat. And if you don't have a brain that knows you need to breathe, and knows that you need to eat, and knows what it should be eating or should not be eating, and if you don't have a mouth that you can put your food in, and if you don't have lubrication so you can swallow that food, and if it ends up into your lungs and you die anyway, then of course if you don't have a tongue, then you can't really throw anything in there, or it all falls in one big piece. And of course if you don't have teeth, you can't chomp it up very well. And of course, you know, if your teeth are just one big clump in your mouth so that you can't move it around, then it doesn't do you any good. And so they need to be sized correctly, and they need to be controlled, and you know, need jaw bones, and you need muscles in your face so that you can in fact move your jaw bones, and then you need to breathe. And then of course if you don't hear, and you can't see, and you don't smell, and you can't touch, and you can't move your hand or your fingers, your arm, or anything else, then of course, well, you're not going to do very well as life now, are you? And of course, if we look at evolution, it says, well, we just built it all just one little piece at a time. Well, let's just take a look over at the nursing home for a bit. And the nursing home is certainly those who were functioning better, and then their bodies and their minds didn't contain that in a way that became usable later on in their lives. So, in other words, the nursing home represents an evolutionary scale that is far above where evolution says that it began, life began. So, in other words, you know, let's look over there and see just how able are these people to survive on their own. You know, evolution says we built it one tiny little bitty step at a time over millions of years. Well, let's take a look at there and see just how well did these people do. If, you know, they are an evolutionary step, how well could they have done? And then some will argue, well, everything on Earth was, you know, was in that state, so just because they couldn't function today, they could have functioned earlier because everything else was bad. Well, that ain't so. There are realities of life that you are required to attain. In other words, if you're not able to move from one spot to another spot, well, you're just not able to move from one spot to another spot. And that means that you know, if the water is over there, you can't get it. Or if the food is somewhere else, well, you can't get it. Or if it's faster than you, you can't get it. The list is very long. And of course, the university respects nothing of reality. Nothing. So they say evolution, that's the key. You know, evolution, that's what you want to believe. Well, the only reason they do that is so they can play God themselves. By removing the idea that there is a creator, they get to save themselves that they are God. That we can, you know, change whatever we want to now. We can do whatever we want to now. We don't have to be concerned with anything we do. You know, we have no responsibilities whatsoever. We don't need to respect anything. That would be their plan. And that is literally what they do in many, many ways. Of course, that's a broad stroke to say university does it. But there are individuals in university that certainly do things like that. And we're painting it only in broad strokes. There are others who do well at the university. So we'll just leave it at that. But what is important is if we don't respect the life that we have, if we don't respect the limits and the boundaries of our world and our living environment, we don't have a life soon. It will end. And there are those who hate you, believe it or not. And, you know, somebody hates you. It doesn't matter who you are, somebody hates you. Somebody probably loves you. And lots of people just don't know you. So it's just facts of life. At any rate, there is an endless amount of conversation and this kind of thing, and we'll just end it here, because if you haven't got a clue yet, if you can't go out and you know, think for yourself, for instance, yet, there's not much point in talking to you now, is there?